Hello everybody, welcome into the Hobby Bar. This is Jason, and welcome. Today, we'll be moving on to a new project. Figure, why not bust out a gunplow? Why not? Something different. So, that's what we'll dive into today. Fairly simple one with Nobell. Will be my second of this version, technically third Nobell, since I have one of the Berserk ones. So, also wanted to tinker around with putting some paint on these, so should be a fun project. And yeah, that's what we'll dive into today, is starting to do the assembly, because it's a very simple one to assemble. It's only got like a few runners in there, or sprues if you will. But yeah, with that, if you do any hobbying, feel free to jump in, join along, get some stuff done. If not, hey, that's cool too. Glad you decided to check it out. Hang out, and hopefully you get whatever you're working on done, or find some joy in hanging out. But anyway, with that, go ahead and cue up your music in the background, and let's dive into some assembly on some Gunpla. Alrighty, first up, I just wanted to do a quick inventory here, make sure I had everything organized, out of their baggies, and just inventoried real quick. So, that's what I'm doing right here, just organizing them so this way I can make sure I have everything. Set aside stuff. There's the base sprue, so we got everything good to go. Just gotta reorganize everything. So first up, step one on this, on Nobel, is to assemble the, upper torso area. So, one of the, I guess, good slash bad things about it, is it's all plastic. There's no, there's none of the soft plastic. What's usually referred to as polycaps. So just gonna go through the whole build process here. I don't end up doing it all in one sitting because I got a little distracted because I wanted to try out using paint on these instead of doing the stickers. And Nobel has like few enough stickers that it's gonna be simple. But yeah, it'll be a fun project overall, and yeah, no big deal. I should get myself a file one of these times, this way I don't have to use the mold line remover scraper to try to knock down nubs, instead can just file them down. Maybe I should just bust out some of the sandpaper I have sitting around, and maybe to use that instead. Whatever, we'll figure it out one of these times. Because I noticed a couple of times there were still some divots in there from when I cut a little too close. Didn't leave myself enough room for scraping. So, yeah. Just something to get back used to when doing these kits. But yeah. Well, I figure maybe breaking it up into steps might be a bit better, for organizing, since this is mostly just going to be assembly. Not so much painting process with different paints. Mostly going to be assembly, I think. So, maybe just putting in each step, as the breakout for chapters. Maybe that'll work. But, yeah. Go ahead and let this run in the background. I am kind of meticulous, so there will be a lot of dry fitting and making sure that things are squared up and good to go. It's just the way I've assembled things for a while. But anyway, we'll wrap up this part of trying to get through the first step. Again, upper torso being the first step. And catch up with y'all here shortly when we start clipping out all the extra pieces for prepping up some painting. And then we can chat about that. So, catch up with y'all here in a bit for the next chapter. Alrighty, here we are just gonna be clipping out all of the other pieces on the model that that are gonna need paint on them. Again, I'm trying not to use the stickers on this one, because I feel like there's few enough stickers that this can be one of the first ones I try doing some painting on, just to see how well it goes. Get a feel for it before trying to customize up another one. When they do another run on these, when they do another run on these, I'll probably pick another one up and customize it up then, more so. But this is just sort of a fun little experiment, and then I can kind of compare between doing Gundam markers on the first one and doing the wash on this one for panel lining. It'll be a fun little comparison later when we get to that. But yeah, for this, just snipping out all the bits that will need paint on them. So there's the bow. There's technically two different stickers for the bow. There's the neck that I was clipping out for step 1, and then I was leaving off to the side. But next step is to put the front part of that upper torso on. So it's now or never for basically priming it up. So I figured, oh, what the heck. Let's get all of the pieces out that'll need painting. And yeah. We need to snip out the leg that has the little red band going around it. And yeah, I believe that's it. We'll be grabbing the sticker sheet here and comparing just to make sure. And I noticed, oh hey, there's one more piece that needs it. Because there's one unaccounted for sticker on there, and that's the top of the head. Because there's the, I believe it's the camera. I forget what the light is on top of the head for where that sticker is. And then yeah. But yeah, with that, we'll go ahead and clean these up and scrape them up just to make sure they're relatively flat and ready for priming. And then that'll be the next step, is a whole lot of priming. Like a whole lot of priming. So I'll catch up with y'all here in a bit when we start doing that process. Alrighty, here we are breaking out the Pro Acryl White Primer. I've kind of gotten really used to brush-on priming, and I don't have an airbrush, so I can't just tape stuff off and airbrush it on. But it's time to get primer on all the parts that we're going to be painting. So, kind of am using a small brush here, but because I want to be a little careful with where I get it. I don't want to get it too much on the rest of the plastic that's not going to be primed up. So that's why I'm kind of doing it the slow and meticulous way. Though towards the end I did start noticing that the primer was starting to set there in the dry paint well there. So need to work a little bit faster on it, or potentially use a wet palette for the primer. But yeah, we'll gonna be priming up this band on the neck, which is supposed to have a red sticker around it. Same color red sticker as the upper thigh there. And then we'll also, I figured instead of using the white stickers on these, I kind of wanted to just run some primer into the little crevice there. Because getting a sticker in there was kind of annoying on the previous two that I made, or that I built, assembled. So, yeah, I wanted to try just running primer through here, and then kind of scrape it off the plastic on top that's raised up, since this is basically a V channel kind of a thing that the sticker has to sit in. So it was annoying me on the previous two. So figure, what the heck, we'll just run primer in here and see how that looks off the bat. And kind of happy with how it turns out, actually, just with primer. I don't even know if I have to run any other paints in there, but we'll have to figure that out real quick. Because this white pretty much, I feel like it matches up pretty well. So at the very least, it's close enough to the other white that it won't really matter too much. At least that's the way it looks. Maybe you have to put a varnish over it. I'm not sure what kind though, whether it should be gloss matte or what. Because if it's matte, I'll probably have to put it over the whole thing, which I don't really have an airbrush, so that'll be tricky. But yeah, if I varnish it gloss, it might match, question mark. So that's the fun gamble there, is figuring out which varnish to use. Or clear coat, if you will. But anyway, we'll prime up the circle on the ribbon, the eye area on the faceplate, the camera area on the helmet, that thigh band, and the inside of the hair. Because that should actually technically be darker in there, but it's okay. Nothing a little bit of paint can't fix. So we'll be doing that. But yeah, we'll go ahead and continue this process for quite a while. We'll put a second coat onto each of these pieces. I forget if I do a slight third coat on some of them. But yeah, we'll be knocking that out on these. And this will be quite a while, even at this sped up 2x speed. So, whew boy. Buckle up everybody, it's a long one this week, if you couldn't tell. Mostly because I kind of got into the groove here painting these, and then I'm like, I don't want to just have the heads, all the head bits separated. I kind of want to finish assembling the head. So I kind of got into the groove and just went through the first 4 steps, which are torso assembly, effectively torso assembly and head assembly. Like, not attaching the hair to the head assembly, but getting the head together and ready to go on to that nubbin on top of the upper torso. But yeah, so pretty long one for very few steps, but it's because I'm kind of a slow worker and kind of meticulous when I tuck into things. But anyway, we'll continue on this process, and I'll catch up with you all here in a little while when we let this primer dry up and move on to the next step. Alrighty, here we are using some red ink from Vallejo and some metallic medium, also from Vallejo. I wanted to mix these two together to try to make it the red that the sticker is. What I probably should have done first was undercoated these bands with Leadbelcher or some darker metal, because with this mixture going over the white, it kind of comes out a little bit brighter than the stickers were. Like, I'm still pretty happy with how they turned out after the next coat, or after the next few coats. But, yeah, I was like, probably should have been a bit darker. And then, since we're working with the shiny red, well, might as well put the shiny red on the other shiny red thing. So, upper thigh band it is. We kind of go back and forth here on these two pieces for a little bit, just trying to get all of it built up, reddened, and, good to go. And in this time, kind of do a bit of back and forth hopping later on between a couple of paints. But, yeah. Not really much else to say about this process. I probably could have busted out some masking tape just to make the edges a little bit cleaner and easier to worry about. Or not worry about. But, I kind of wanted to just see if I could just wing it freehand and keep it clean on my own. So, that's what we're trying here. Think it turned out alright. But, we'll see how it goes as we continue the build. Anyway, we'll go ahead and continue this process. Again, red ink and metallic medium. They're mixed up. Hard to say the mixture. I want to say maybe 2 red ink to 1. 1 to 1 to 2 to 1. Hard to say because the red ink's kind of thin. So it'll run into the metallic medium that I sort of added next to it and then mixed in. So, hard to say the exact mixture, but I kind of like how it turned out in the end. Anyway, again, I'll catch up with you all here shortly when we move on to the next paint. Alrighty, here we are breaking out Viejo black ink. I figured I'd use black ink around the eyes, just because then it's nice and thin and might be a bit easier to control where it ends up around the eyeballs up here. Like, could have just used Bad and Black or some other, something else, maybe contrast paint, or black wash or something, but I figured the black ink will get in there, get that solid, effectively solid base coat in there, and we'll be good to go. I am trying to keep it from building up too much though on the red plastic bits that aren't supposed to have any paint, that are still supposed to be red. So there is that, and then accidentally get a little bit on where the green lens will be, so whoopsies there. But yeah, just a simple little bit of Viejo black ink around the eye lenses and good to go. Alrighty, here we are mixing up some Vallejo green ink with some metallic medium, again, but from Vallejo. And first up I was putting it on the eyes. I was kind of in a groove again, so I sort of missed that I was using the wrong brush. I tend to use a different brush for metallics and non-metallics, just because metallics can kind of make problems for bristles. Depends on how you take care of your brushes, and I don't tend to wash my brushes off a lot. Like after every time I'm using them, I tend to just let them dirty up a little bit, maybe weekly or every couple of weeks, clean them up, make sure they're good to go. But yeah, we also apply it into the upper little green lens camera, whatever thing up here, before we go back and sort of try to build it up a bit better on the eyes. Because I noticed it was a little strong on the eyes, and then as it was settling, it was a little bit too bright. So I was like, how do we try to fix this? And I tried to keep it within the shape of the lens there for the eyes, which that can be a little bit of a trouble, but it's fine. Nothing a little scraping won't fix, because I also noticed some of the black ink was on the red there, so I wanted to try to clean it up a bit instead of leaving that red all covered up. But yeah, we'll continue going around, building up this color a little bit more, and see y'all in a little bit when we move on to the next paint, and that one's going to take a little while. Alrighty, here we are, breaking out Citadel Leadbelcher. Okay, so first up, I was kind of just wanting to use what I usually use for metallics for the brush. I didn't want to dirty up another brush, which kind of a mistake. Kind of a big area to apply paint to with such a small brush, and I'm like, oh, crud. Yeah, this is probably going to take a while to do with this brush, and I'm like, well, because it's such a small brush, it's also kind of hard to keep the coats of it thin enough to not clog up any detail, even though it's the inside of the hair and there's not much detail in there. I was like, this wasn't going to be a little hard to coat with this. So eventually I break out a medium base brush, which I probably could have also used the large, looking back at it. Just really, just use a lot of bristles and whack it in there. But I stuck with the medium, because I figured, for whatever reason, I felt like it would have been a better choice. But, yeah. Hindsight. Oh well. Maybe next time. Also for future references. Definitely need to pick the right size of brush for the job, and this little one from Army Painter ain't the right size for the area I'm trying to cover in this. Still did a heck of a job, but oh, right tool for the job and all that. Anyway, we'll continue this step of Leadbelcher, and we'll do more of it later, because this stuff does have to dry eventually. So yeah, we'll take a little break from that before we dive back into Leadbelchering it up later. So I'll catch up with you all here in a little bit for the next paint. Alrighty, we're back into the green ink from Viejo and metallic medium for our, just trying to let the Leadbelcher dry over there and try to build up the green color in these pieces a little bit better. Also you notice in the water cup there's now a brush waiting in there. Sometimes after I clean them I notice the bristles are very stiff, so I just have to let them soak in water a bit, just to hope them loosen up and be able to move a bit better. So that's what that one's doing while it's waiting there. Now we're back in with the Leadbelcher again. Thankfully with a slightly bigger brush this time. Yeah, the medium base brush from Citadel gives it a little bit more surface area. Again, I probably could have swapped to the large one, which will be an even bigger brush. And I'm kind of tilting it back and forth there, trying to figure out how good the coverage is at the time. A little bit weak still, so we gotta come in for another coat. And, whoo boy, this process is gonna still take a bit of time, mostly because I'm trying to keep the layers controlled and thin and not whack it in there and goop it up, gunk it up. Yeah, we'll kind of see how it goes at the end though. But, yeah, this process is still going to take quite a bit of time even with this slightly bigger brush. So, probably could have used a black primer instead of a white one, but I only have a white primer. Well, technically I have a gray primer, a neutral, a light gray primer, but it's it still would have made it a little bit light here. So if I had an actual black primer though, I think that would have worked fine under this, and then I could have just used couple of thin coats of Leadbelcher and been good to go. I do keep scraping the edges of this just to try to keep the edges clean too. I don't know if you noticed from the last time, but that's what I've been doing, running my fingernail across areas, trying to keep the paint where it's supposed to be, and off of where it's not. Can be a little tough though, since there's still some nibs poking about off of the hair and off of the other bits. But, oh well, that's just to remind me that I'm not on those pieces yet for assembly. But, yeah. If memory serves, I believe this will be the last bit of painting. So, we can go back to assembly here shortly. I'm not sure if I want to come in and shade some of the paints. I might do it to the white on the little sailor uniform collar thing, since that's just literally primer in there still. I might put some contrast paint or a wash over it just to try to give it a little bit of definition, though I don't know if it needs definition. I'm not sure yet. Might just leave it that flat white, but I don't know. We'll figure it out, because I might throw a wash over the Leadbelcher in here, just to try to help define some of that inner stuff a bit better. Not like panel line washing, but just overall wash. Throw it in there, let it do its thing. But I'm not sure. Anyway, we'll continue this process for a while again, and catch up with y'all here in a little while when we move on to assembly again. Alrighty, here we are beginning step 2 of building, which is going to be attaching this front part of the chest onto all those bits that are already waiting there to be assembled, and then also getting the collar on there. Both of those steps are step 2. Might have misspoke before because I thought that the whole upper torso, other than the collar and the ribbon, were step 1, but nope. Front part of the upper torso is step 2 of the instructions, so here we go. One of these times I'll get used to cutting far enough away that scraping it won't be too bad. This way I can flatten it out, or I'll just get a file or sandpaper or something and be able to use that. For whatever reason, when attaching this, I was having some problem lining up all 4 of the little nubs that have to go in, that have to slot into that front part of the upper torso there, so it clicks together all nice and neat. So you see me sitting there and trying to reset everything, make sure it's all seated in there well, and this way we can click it all together and just make it happen, which we do get it there. But yeah, so making sure everything's lined up and good enough. Was tempted to use glue on it, but oops. But I figured just snap together's fine. Now we're coming in and cleaning up the little neck thingy. I don't know what that thing's called. The little collar. That's usually there for style of uniform. But anyway, same idea. I'm just gonna clean this up, get the little nibs off though, since we already cut this out for prepping up for painting. And all these were primer in that little crevice instead of using the stickers, because those are kind of a pain to get into that groove, or put anywhere remotely close to that groove, I found. But that's why I wanted to try doing the painting thing. Also, practice for painting other things. It's always good to use that. So, yeah, we'll go ahead and chug through this process of finishing up step 2, getting these on there. Then I'll catch up with you all here shortly when we move on to step 3 of assembly. Alrighty, here we are moving on to step 3 of assembly. It's literally just putting the ribbon on the front. I don't know why it needed its own step, but there it is. So, we're gonna get the little runner nibs off, and then clean them up, scrape them up, make sure they look relatively flat here. And then, yeah, we'll go ahead and get that right on the front there. That's kind of why you don't need to run paint all the way through the front on the grooves. Like the grooves don't go behind the ribbon here, since it kind of covers up that tip of the blue collar there. So, anyway, this process, real straightforward, simple. Bing, bang, boom, and it's done. Alrighty, here we are moving on to step 4 of the assembly. I was kind of happy with just leaving it at step 3 because this has been going for quite a while, but then I didn't want to lose any of the bits, so I'm like, well, at least 2 of the pieces are on the head. When does the head come up? Oh hey, that's literally the next step, step 4, so let's keep this train rolling. So, we go ahead and clean these up and get them ready for assembly because, well, might as well finish the next step of the process too while we're at it. Again, less pieces to lose, so that's always a plus. So yeah, we have to get the faceplate into that upper helmet, then attach the, like, face guard, face mask, bottom half, then build up the sides, basically. I could have also snapped the hair on after assembling the head, but I figured, we can do that later. It's just sitting there, though. Looks pretty good. Kind of happy with it. Even though, when looking at it, it still seems like a bit of yellow comes through. I'm not sure. Figure that out when we get to the hair getting on there. If we want to do anything else to it. But, yeah. We'll continue doing this similar to before. Just chugging along. Getting the head assembled. And, yeah. 4 out of what, 20 steps for assembly technically, or so. But we did have a pretty lengthy break in there for painting, so yeah. Also, like I mentioned before, am quite a bit meticulous with making sure things fit up, try fit up, making sure they're all on there properly and all that. Making sure I know which pieces to grab and whatnot. But yeah. We'll continue on this process here to get that head built up. And I'll catch up with y'all here in a little while for the last call. Alrighty, last call everybody, last call. Had to end it there with dropping the head, of course. But for the last call, don't mind the little Citadel texture applicator tool thingy. I just wanted to use that to brace up the upper torso since it's not able to sit on its own quite yet. But yeah, that's the start of this one. Hope y'all got whatever you were working on done, or got chugging along on whatever you're working on, and hope you had a good time. And yeah, just doing some Gunpla assembly. Woo! Fun. Probably as we get closer to finishing, we might compare it to the other ones. The Berserk version's kind of interesting because it's kind of fun to compare colors for, like, I don't know, I think maybe color theory purposes, because everything's red shifted, and when I first pulled out those sprues, it was kind of shocking how different the white was, and then when you assemble it, it's like, huh, this still works. But yeah, we might break that out when this gets built up and we can compare the three of them. Anyway, we'll continue with this project next time. Hopefully not have, you know, a big ol' interlude in there of painting, and hopefully not have an hour-long episode next time, but depends if I get in the groove. Assembly's kind of one of the things I love to do, so we'll see if that happens. Hopefully not, but it might. Fair warning. Anyway, again, hope you got whatever you're working on done, and yeah, hope you had a good time. Anyway, take care everybody, and thank you for hanging out today. Have a good one out there. I'll see you around.